Good morning, everyone.
We'll start in 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. Hello, everyone. Good morning. It's horrible because I cannot see you. I know you can see me. I can only see your good mornings on the chat, right? So we are here today to talk about the teenagers, the new teenage courses, and it's a Q&A format, as most of you know, and we need to Actually, I need to give you the attendance list, but I don't know how to do this right now. I have the link, don't worry. Pri, do you know where the link is? Because I cannot add anything to the chat here. Pri is going to add the link to you, okay? And it's a Q&A format, so everything depends on your questions. And I will start with a question. Did you have the chance to look at the documents, think about the differences, analyze, think about the teenager courses we had and the ones we are about to start? Hello, Lillian. I see a hi, Marcelo there. And lots of good mornings. It's great to know all the names, but it's terrible that I have no idea what you're doing at the moment because I cannot see any faces. Yes, terrible. So I'll ask the question again. Did you have the chance to look at the documents and think about the teenagers and everything? Because I cannot see any answers, only good morning. The attendance list is on the chat, okay? Silence. Can you hear me, guys? I'm not sure you can. Yes, Sumar can hear me. Thank you, Sumar. Because I'll be talking on my own here. Okay, Lillian cannot hear me apparently. Or, sorry, not really. You didn't look at the documents, Lillian. Okay, then let's start with Bruna's question. Bruna's asking whether it will be project-based. That's a very, very important question. Bru, we are going to start with a language course, regular course, but we are still going to have some project features. So from teenagers 1 to 4, they're younger ones, we are going to work with project lessons. So there'll be 2 in each of the courses for projects. They're very special lessons for projects. And they're going to do, you are going to have a note on your guidelines if they need to bring any material or do any research prior to the lesson. That's for teenagers 1 to 4. And in teenagers 5 and 6, and here's I think great news or different news, I don't know. We're going to have a project which is connected, very linked to the reader. I'm not sure you already know, but you probably noticed in the list, in the materials list, that we do not have a reader for T5, the new T5. The reason is we are going to experiment this semester because this is the pilot semester, right? Everyone who's teaching will be helping us with that. We're going to test a game, an online game, which is based on making choices, discussing, and everything. This is going to be done with the whole group, and everyone's going to be playing the same game, but in different manners, and the game is based on reading. I'm sure some of you know the game. It's called Lifeline. We're going to experiment with it throughout the semester. And then the project will be based on creative writing for teenager 5, and they're going to do the reading or the game in the first part of the course, and for the second part of the course they're going to do their own stories. They're going to develop their own stories, their own ideas, questions to each other, collaborate on that, and produce a portfolio of narratives that they created with the contents, linking with the contents of the course. So then in this case, it's going to be a bigger project. And Bruno's question was very important because of that. The T5 is a lot more based on a project, okay? Let me just scroll a little bit to find the other questions. Bruno's is here, and just a second. So I had a look at the materials, the new guidelines. Well, for Wellington, okay? He says that they're a lot more prescriptive. That's not the idea. The idea is that if you had a look at the guidelines, you will see that there is a box on top of that, and then you had the box on top on T5 as well. The idea is that the box gives the more autonomous teacher an idea of the aim or the expected language. And with that, you can do anything, okay? You can focus on the skill that is suggested there, the aim, the target language, and you go crazy. For those who either don't have the time or feel that you need more support, you have all the suggestions in the guidelines, not only the exercise, but how to go about it. It's a suggestion. You can do, of course, different things with the repertoire you have. So the idea is not to be prescriptive, but to have a real suggestion on how to go about the materials. Does that make sense? Well, does that help? Hi from Santos. The T1 guideline follows. Silmar, very, very interesting question. He's asking whether it's a more communicative approach. It's not necessarily a communicative approach, but literally tackling our views more overtly, meaning they're learning a language to communicate in this world. So even though the course book is, again, the syllabus of a course book is always based on, not always, but mostly based on grammar, so there are topics, verb to be, and etc. We are still working on communicative goals for Teenager 1. And the lessons the suggested guidelines, they give you more ideas on how to go about the materials to help your kids communicate rather than do the exercises on the book and not speak at the end of the Teenager 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 and so on and so forth, so that they can meet the Intermediate 1 later, communicating and actually closing in on, if you have great students, they will be A2 plus. If you have average students, they're supposed to be A2. So that's why the communication is core there. You're right, Samar. Then Alini, super excited. Me too. And I need you a lot, okay? 5 teachers. Oops. Wait a minute. Okay. Lilian. Ta-da. Okay, project plus reader. I'm glad you liked the idea. We are in love with the idea, Juan and I. How are the teachers going to keep in touch with parents? Are we going to use Google Classroom for teens? The technology is going to be kept the same way. They don't have a Google account. For this semester, we still have the eCampus for teenagers 2 till 6. So the communication with parents is still going to be the same way. We haven't changed that, okay, Lillian? It's still the same thing. They don't have a Google account. It has to do with the age and everything as well, okay? And how much independence. But little by little, we're going to adapt and adjust, as I said. So let's see, Caio. Will the flip charts bring more consistent practices? Yes, this links to Wellington's question there. Because the guidelines already give you an idea, for the ideas, if if it involves a flip chart page, the page will be there for you, okay? With either the practice or the listening task, or sometimes, as you probably saw it in the Teenager 1 lesson that was there, sometimes there is even the language for the task when it's the beginning, so it's more predictable that they're going to need that language. But as it moves forward, the things that depend on the group you have, because especially for Teenager 1, you might have false beginners. So there will be one suggestion, which might be for false or real beginners. And you may need to adapt or to build up a new page for that because of that, okay? Because if we try to cover everything, which would be the ideal world, I would not live, in the month of July. But the idea is, yes, Caio, that there will be solid materials that you can use. The idea is that you can go to the classroom, have everything there, and actually the preparation would be to think of how to approach that with your students, not anything you need to prepare in advance in terms of materials, but in terms of how to talk to your students, or how to group them, or how to ask them the questions, or what questions to ask them, okay? But not to worry about materials. That's the idea. Grazi is asking, is there a reason why the lessons are not organized in AB anymore? There is. Actually, Graziella, the AB is to cater for the groups that have lessons on the same day, like Friday groups, for example. But sometimes people who go to Cultura might know that you do have a lesson on Monday and another one on Wednesday, not both on the same day, okay? So that's the reason why they are 32 independent lessons. They're not really independent, but the aims, the goals are going to be different. It's like you close a small circle in the 50 minutes and then you restart, or you link it. If you have an AB lesson on a Friday, for example, you can still link both lessons. But for those who have two separate lessons, they will have them separate already, okay? That's the idea. I hope it helps, or it caters for everyone in this sense. I'm not sure, you tell me, you can tell me, okay? I'm reading here. Let me just say something else about these AB. This is something you cannot have noticed because there was homework on lesson 3 that I uploaded, but that's not correct. It's already changed. It was just for you to see the homework, then I put it there. The homework will only be present in lessons, in the even lessons. So 2, 4, 6, etc. So they will have the weekly homework, okay? So if you're teaching on a Friday, that's easy because you have 1 and 2 on the same week. For the other groups, it might be more complex, because if the course starts on a Wednesday, it means the homework will be assigned on a Monday. Please feel free to adapt it. If you're teaching on a group, if you're teaching a group that has the homework lesson on a Monday, you can throw it to Wednesday and so on and so forth, okay? Please feel free to do that. But every 2 lessons, the idea is that you correct homework in a more meaningful way, and also assign it in a more meaningful way, giving them time to do it. So that's the way we thought about that, and we split the homework to adapt to a weekly schedule, not to overwhelm students, and to have a more consistent homework correction. So if you have to correct it in every lesson, if you're teaching Mondays and Wednesdays, for example, then you're going to spend like 10 minutes to do it meaningfully on both lessons. And we're doing it only once a week to organize it a little bit different. We're going to test. You let me know if it doesn't work during the semester, you just email me and say, Marcela, I'm sorry, it was a brilliant idea, it didn't work, try again, try something different, and then we try something different. But the rationale is really that they do it, that they relate to a weekly amount of work. The hashtag, the same thing, it's the summary of the week of both lessons. Then we keep somehow the idea of the AB, putting things together, okay? So Silmar is saying, the T5 guideline does not contain an allocated time for each step. It's like, oh, no, Silmar, you got the top box only for T5. Under that part, you will have the timing allocated for the steps. What you have on top, I think I'll say it again. The top part is supposed to cover the lesson, the core of the lesson, summarize what is expected from the students, or what you were supposed to help students do for that lesson. If you're very creative, if you love what you are doing with the materials, you don't even have to look at the second part. The T3 contains the second part. You just use the top box, the target language, the communication, the skills that are suggested for what, because the skills are necessary. I mean, they were separated. There are very specific lessons for listening, reading, writing, etc. So you use that to plan your lesson. If not, you just look at the suggestions. In the suggestions, the stages have the timing, okay? The top box was there just for you to have an idea of the differences between T1 and T5. I'll get back to that in a minute, okay? Let me just write this here so I don't forget. So Amanda is asking, will the same amount of grammatical exposure be expected from the early teens, such as T1? Same amount, you mean same amount as in the previous course, Amanda? I'm not sure that was the question. Or, yeah, just, it was too much. Oh yes, it's probably that, because Rosangela said, good question, it was too much in my opinion. Fantastic, brilliant. Let's all be on the same page here, and this will link to Silmar's earlier question, which was about communication. The core is the communication. That's why the expected language there is not present simple or verb to be or whatever. The book, the course book, will be the same as usual, right? They have a grammar box. We're not going to look at the grammar box and say, oh, today I'm teaching grammar. There'll be exposure, okay? Because the texts bring that, it's language. But the idea is that they are taught how to use the chunks in a meaningful way. We're going a lot more towards communication than towards grammar, okay? Not only for exposure, but also for noticing. So questions in noticing will be a lot more like, oh, so how do I greet people? Oh, you say hello, you say, what can I ask them? What's your name? Repeat, what's your name? It's not, oh, is a contraction, because a child, a 10-year-old child, needs visual support, but a lot more concrete things, and concrete in terms of how do I use the language and not how much grammar I know. Otherwise, they will be learning a lot of grammar, but not knowing how to use it. It's Alice in Wonderland speaking French, right? She has no idea how to use the chunks she learned. It's more important for them to learn how to say the chunks, how to use the chunks, and understand the context than the grammar. So there is grammar, but it's not a grammar-based course, if you know what I mean. Does that clarify? I think I was going far. Let me see. Weekly homework. Okay. Julia is saying that it's a great idea. I thought so too. Julia, you tell me later, okay? Okay, Carol, the homework. Okay, same thing. Everyone is saying, oh, great homework. Yeah, I thought about that. That's why, again, I will repeat, please feel free to move the homework slot to the lesson that suits your group. So if the group starts on a Wednesday, if you're teaching Cultura, for example, or in the branches, I don't know, and then the homework lesson was supposed to be on a Monday, move homework to the next lesson, okay? Feel free to do that. Okay, wait, there is a question. Great, homework. So, will all teens groups have access to eCampus? Will there be weekly homework there too? Okay, Gabi is asking about the access to eCampus. We tried, there was no time yet, but we tried to replace the eCampus. It wasn't possible, not yet. They still have access to the eCampus from T2 to T6. T1 still has the Young, but we're going to keep the same suggested exercises there. Homework, the core of the homework is not on eCampus, okay? The use of the eCampus is among teenagers is not significant, and we're going to try something with the teachers perhaps in the classroom to help them, but they will still have access, okay, Gabi? Right, okay. Yes, Sylvia, T1 guidelines was complete, T5 was just the top box to notice the differences. Okay, I didn't have the opportunity to look at the book. Yeah, let me say something about the book. I'm sure you've probably received the email we sent. I sent one months ago, Juan sent another one this week. The books haven't arrived at the bookstores yet, which means I'm working on a PDF copy of the book, and we don't have the course book yet. I mean, it's ready, but it's not printed or on sale in SBS or Dessau or anywhere yet. Okay, so nobody had a look at the book, at the real book yet. We saw the pages on a PDF copy. But it is more student friendly, Danilo. We still have to help students understand what to do in the exercises. This is always going to be this way because it's different from the exercises they have on at school, right? But they do have space to write on the exercises, which is good. Okay. Thank you about Danilo saying that he had dyslexic students and he had to adapt. The exercises, they do have space, but I'm just writing it down here if we need to look at that later. You let me know when you see the book, okay, Danilo? But yes, they have space to write, to complete. Even when there is a paragraph or 2 lines, they still have it, okay? Renata and Elizabeth, Betsy and William are asking about the test, maybe someone else. Yes, Mario is also asking. So the idea is that all the exercises in the test reflect what they do in the classroom, meaning there'll be a context there, okay? So complete the conversation, for example, and the completion has to reflect what they are doing or what's suggested that they do in the classroom, okay, and not complete with the present perfect. But I think this is always like that, right? But you let me know, and perhaps we should use them with a couple of teachers looking at them, and then you let me know if it reflects. But yes, the idea is that the test reflects what they do in the classroom, and not, okay, it's a grammar part, but the grammar, what are we using grammar to support the communication? So the idea is that we follow the communication as well, okay? Gabi is saying, when can we have a look at the tests? When they are ready, you will be the first ones to look at them, okay? I'll be sure to send you a link and say they're available, don't worry. But they're not ready yet, the tests. Yes, they'll be, Gabi, don't worry, Gabi and everyone, they will be assessed in the same way that the final tasks are being designed. But I'll give you, let's do the following. For the tests, I'll send you communication very soon. Very soon. Because we have some ideas here. But really, don't worry, it's not a grammar test, okay? Or anything. The assessment. I found them too grammar-like. Yes, Katja, don't worry. They're not going to be grammar-like. Yes. Yes, Guilherme, adapted. Let me see. Will the test follow the communicative, the task recognition sense? Because there was a problem I had when teaching. Okay. Bruna, can you tell me more about what happened when teaching T1 to 2? Because we're going to follow the rationale of the course, but I'm not sure I understand the problem. Maybe it was too grammar based, right? Micro or discrete item, perhaps. Tell me more about that. Homework the way you're saying from T1, is it going to be the same way? Yes, Sylvia. Sylvia is asking, we already have, I know you have T1 to T4 because it's lessons A and B. But it's going to be throughout the teenager courses, okay, Sylvia? Even lessons only for the homework. Julie is asking whether there is a digital version of the book. Not yet, because they're producing it. We have the PDFs, and I'm going to make them available to you. And I just got them, the teacher's book and everything, and I'm going to upload this to the library, okay? Let me just write this down. Then you can have a look at that. But remember one thing, this is very important. The book is a new book to help learners and to cater for both false beginners and real beginners, especially for teenagers 1 and 2. But the book is not the course, okay? The course is like you looked at the guidelines. Okay. I feel this is something particularly useful. Okay. Great news about the tests. When are the new teenagers? Okay, Hakel is asking when the new teenager courses are going to be implemented. As of August, we have new teenagers 1, 3, and 5. 1, 3, and 5, and T5A. If you have in schools, right? Because this is the semester, the second semester has fewer groups, and we can adapt if necessary for all the teenagers, because 2, 4, and 6 starts next year. And if we need to make adaptations, then we have fewer groups being tested now. Anyone teaching T1, T3, T5 is part of the project already, okay? I'm giving you all the responsibility to write to me, bombard me with your emails or what, saying, Marcela, listen, this is working well, this is not working, shall we try this, or etc. You can give, we love feedback. I do. Basically, is laughing at me. Let me see. Global students will have support material available through Google Sites in substitution to the... No, they don't have Google accounts, well, so we cannot have support materials, okay? On Google, yet. Digital, yes. Okay, good. Katja, we are trying the digital versions. 2 grammar-based and weaker students, Bruna's explaining, let me see. 2 grammar-based and weaker students would have a hard time performing the more complex tasks, such as completing the sentences about themselves. Okay, sometimes some aspects of grammar were present in the test and were not very relevant communicatively in the lesson they were taught. Yeah, Bru, this is very important, this is a very serious thing, because if you think of a student having an exercise, the exercise is already one photograph, right, of everything that happened. You will realize that some of the lessons, they look the same. Like they learned how to introduce themselves, and then in lesson 3 they learn how to introduce themselves and give personal information. In lesson 5 they give more personal information, so on and so forth. The idea is that they learn something useful, so they are going to learn to talk about themselves, and everything is added like a spiral of learning, right? So it looks very repetitive, especially at the beginning, because they won't. We shouldn't be expecting anybody, especially teenagers. I mean, they're twins, to remember everything they learn in one 50-minute lesson. So they're going to see it again and again and again and again in terms of communication and drilling, repeating that, so that they can actually remember, and making language and communication memorable to support the automaticity of language when it comes to testing, or more than testing, assessing, okay? So yes, Bruno, we are catering for that, don't worry. Danilo Marcio has elaborated a wonderful poster about how to help this. Oh, fantastic. Did you see what Alini writes there, guys? Marcio has a wonderful poster about how to help dyslexic students, and that will be helpful for everyone, I think, right? Good. Juliana feels the same. Okay. It's good to know about that, girls. And if you have any other concerns, just let me know, because then we can organize and cater for all that before. Is there Pedro is asking, is there some sort of digital platform from the publisher with extra resources for students to be more independent when studying at home? Not a platform. They have some digital resources. They have the CD on their books as well and everything. But the platform, I'm not sure it's going to be ready. We adapted the materials, right? So we're not dealing too much with technology in terms of more resources for them, okay? But we are allowing them to play a little bit. For the T5, we're adding the lifeline in the classroom this semester. And if everything goes well in the semester, it's going to be added to their materials list, so they're going to have to download the game and play it on their own. I'm not sure you've played it, Lifeline. Okay. Oh my god, I'm lost. Okay, studying at home. Marcio, can you send me? Oh, everyone wants the poster. Marcio, send every email you see on the chat, okay? Or you can add it to Google Classroom. Very smart, Flavio. Bearing in mind that these are new materials, other CD-ROMs, any video materials, there is a platform. Let me tell you, there is a platform that they can access. They have the code on their books. I'm not sure it's going to be ready. I hope it's ready. And in the platform, they have the digital book, the audio materials, some videos, anything will be there. I have to test when we get the books whether this is going to be available as of August, okay? But they do have access to that, especially if you talk to parents. And if the platform is ready, I'm going to I'm going to edit the materials for the open house, especially for the younger teens, so that you have everything ready to send to parents, saying access the digital platform with your learner, listen to it again at home, etc. Okay, but they do have access to that, and the CD comes on. But they complain that they don't have CD players anymore. Okay, so that they use in class CD-ROMs, yes. They will have it then. Could you please send to everyone? Marcio, you are very popular now. Very, very popular. Yeah, it's better if you create a link and send it here, okay? Danilo, you don't have to apologize. I think learning and sharing learning is an advantage here, right? Are the compositions... Oh! Very good question, Amanda. Thank you. Are the compositions going to have a meaningful communicative objective as well? And will the final task contain a model for the writing part? Fantastic question, Amanda. I'm not sure because we have the tests are topic we're leaving aside for the moment, okay? But the compositions, very, very important for teenagers 1 to 4, the younger ones. Well, maybe we change that to 4. We'll see. But T1 for sure, the lessons are ready. They're going to write the small compositions in an organized way, controlled way, modeled way in the classroom in a meaningful thing. One of the projects they will have has to do with the writing tasks on writing picture captions, for example. So this is going to be meaningful. So when you see a note in the guidelines saying ask your students to bring photographs of their friends for next class, make a fuss about that because it's going to be a poster or a writing task, something that they're going to produce, and that's going to be meaningful, okay? Hopefully. We hope so, right? So yes, there'll be communication there as well, okay? For the T5, remember the creative project we're going to have for T5. The idea is not for the semester, maybe we're trying to pilot this first before everyone goes wild. The idea is that they get it published on a website as well. So more meaningful than that, only if we publish a book and print it and sell it at Dessau for everyone, right? Maybe. We don't know. Let me see. Compositions, yes. I would like to have the poster. Okay, poster. Marcio, you are very popular. Very, very popular. I'll try to upload. Okay, Marcio is going to upload the files and send us the link, okay? Good. Fabio's asking whether you can upload it to Drag Equipe. Mario is worried about the flip charts. Mario, I hope the flip charts help you. And if they don't, please let me know. In the very first lesson you're teaching, you tell me, Marcela, please, we need more help, okay? But I hope they're helpful. Bruna said she knows Lifeline, but she doesn't know much about it. Bruna and everyone, actually, the game is based on saving someone, but he's sending messages from space, and you need to decide what he's supposed to do. But it's sort of a conversation with the character. So he says, "Oh, I'm here, and I don't know, I'm lost, etc." Then you have an option. You have to decide what question to ask him, and he interacts with you. It's a very interactive game. He interacts with you until you get to the end of the story. But the end of the story depends on the questions you ask, or the tips you give him, the suggestions you give him. And in this one, it's just reading. The Lifeline is just reading. You choose your questions there, or suggestions and everything. And what they're going to do later is to write their own storylines, okay, their own plots. But it's fun, and they have different topics as well. If it goes well this semester, and then we can try different stories later as well. Personalize it a bit more. It is personalized reading, right? When I was a kid, we had those books. If you think he should kill the mummy, go to page 3. If he thinks he should run away, go to page 5. I'm not sure you've had that one, but that's the kind of story they have in Lifeline. Okay, I loved those books when I was a kid. But then again, I like reading, right? So, Lifeline, thanks, me too. Great, just checking. Compositions will be carried out in class, not at home. Carol, for teenagers 1 to 4, actually 1 to 3, that's the idea. Because they need a little bit more support to write the compositions, okay, at this age. And sometimes parents don't have that knowledge, and they end up copying something that is not the model and bring some composition that we're teaching them organization as well, right? Not only linguistic, but also for studying. And in some of the lessons, as they grow older and mature, there'll be collaboration as well in terms of peer feedback, a little bit of respect and empathy here with the values in terms of education. Okay, so that's why they're going to be doing the compositions at first in the classroom. But then suppose you because it's process writing as well, some of them, and then again you feel your group won't be writing as fast as you need them to do so. You can adapt it and say, guys, we have all the model or the draft, I don't know, or the questions or the mind map we built. Now you go home and write the composition for next class. It's okay, all right? The idea is that they have some space in the classroom. Okay. Victoria is saying, is there going to have any catch-up lessons? For Victoria, very important question. For teenagers 5 and 6, definitely. Teenagers 1 to 4, because of the repetitive spiraling of education, you might not need a catch-up lesson, okay? But they some of them overlap, so there'll be a tip. If you're late in the course, you can go straight to lesson X or Y or Z, okay? Or you can mix them together. That's the suggestion. New to teenager courses, yes, you're going to love it or not. We don't know. I love the teens. We never know. We can transform their story into books. Katja, that's the idea. The compilation becomes yeah, I've just read the continuation. There is a company that does that, and it costs 40 € to print the books out. We are already printing it. The idea is that they have something tangible for to show their accomplishments and their production, or having their own construction of knowledge or collaborative knowledge there put together. So this is the idea, really, Katja. I haven't thought about printing because it poses other questions, operational questions and everything, but we thought about the compilation digitally, and later on with the online website where they can actually create the stories and draw. Brilliant. Would you say overall the new material is more fun than the previous? Suppose teachers in general would have a hard time making fun lessons with the previous. Edu, that's a very, very good question. Edu is asking whether the new material is more fun than the previous, because maybe the previous one was not much fun. Yes, it is. The committee that decided on the book, they all said it looked a lot more fun. I mean, the photographs, the films in Teenager 3, for example, they have cooler films to talk about and everything. There is the grammar part, the vocabulary box, and everything that the publishers like very much, but it's a lot more fun. I mean, the tasks, there are web quests suggested, and sometimes we wanted to use more things and there are not enough lessons. So you see that there are options for fun there. And also the guidelines are trying to tackle the fun part to help you with some ideas, the guidelines and the flip charts whenever possible. But it can only be fun. I mean, the fun part depends on the group as well, right? So the guidelines or the flip charts are a suggestion. Maybe it's not fun for those students you have. We have to change it. But the book helps, I think, a lot more. Deborah's asking, will we still use the project as means to evaluate students or production? Deborah, the assessment is supposed to, like I said, we're trying to actually cover the views in everything, right? All the views. Technology is a little bit low on the teens courses if compared to other courses, but still there because it's part of it, but the most important thing are the learners, right? So we're trying to cover the assessment, the view of assessment, as an ongoing process. So the project, yes, it's part of that, their interaction and everything, but it's not the only lesson when we can assess their oral production. And because the lessons intend to be more communicative, or they have a goal, communication goal, you will be able to assess your learners in every single lesson continuously, right? Write your notes and bring this progress throughout, okay? Nobody asked, I'm going to ask some of you a question and then I'll keep looking here. Nobody asked me about the going further box. Have you noticed there is a going further box on the guidelines? And I'm going to look, while you think about that, I'm going to say the comments here. Biggest problem we've got in the previous, that there are too much grammar topics to be covered in a short period of time. Good point, Alini, that we have too much grammar. Too many grammar topics and then no time to the fun elements. In that sense, there is less grammar, okay? If you know what I mean. It's not that the grammar is not there, but it's in a fun way. It is there, but in I hope it's fun. I've uploaded, special needs. I know the book is not the main resource, but parents have been complaining a lot about the little use. Yes. Cristiano is asking whether we're going to use the book because parents complain about the use of the book. Yes, Chris, the book is going to be used. They're going to write on the book, have the exercises completed. That's why the homework is mostly on the book as well, right? So that they actually write it down there. Fantastic question, okay? Because otherwise, well, my dream would be to teach with no course books, but please erase this part, but we we cannot do that. So if we are agreeing to use a book, we have to keep it there and we have to use it, yes. Yes, Eduardo Horato now is saying too much to be covered in a 50-minute lesson. Good. Yes, the idea, Eduardo and Aline and everyone, is that we use the topic. You will be able to see, I'm not sure you noticed in the T5 box, the top box in the guidelines, that from T5, actually in T5 and T6, and we're going to experiment with that in the younger ones as well, if possible. We're going to add the expected language is going to be core minimum, and then you have the core minimum here, the average learner, what they are supposed to be using or learning, and if you have great learners, a strong group here. Why? If you all know, because you're very experienced, that in our group we're going to have weaker learners, average learners, stronger learners, right? And sometimes it's difficult to gauge, especially for us in the academic department, how much support they need or don't. This is something you can do because you know the learners. And a group in Pinheiros might be very different from a group in Tatuapé in terms of production. So that's why there is the core minimum. If they're not for T1, because in T1 we're assuming they need to go slower, okay? But it could also be for T1 if you have a very strong group. So we're assuming no. We're giving you the chance to look at the core minimum to cover in the 50-minute lesson or a 100-minute lesson, and go beyond if your group can take more, okay? In the teenager courses, T1, T2, T3, in the guidelines you sometimes have this in the noticing. If they can cope with more, you give them that. Otherwise, you stop here, okay? That's the idea, to help them grow linguistically, okay? I'm not sure if it makes sense there, or if I was able to explain it accurately. Let me find, where am I? I'm lost. The book. 50-minute lesson. Yes. And then Alan is saying you can always expand the use. Yes, but sometimes it's difficult for us to look at so many things, having different levels and everything, okay? But you can use the course book for homework, and the suggested guidelines, the suggestions are going to include exercises, okay? Yes, Bruno, the going further. Yes, the idea of the going further is to make it a little bit more tangible at home and link with things that they do in real life. But for that to work, we need a lot of excitement in the classroom, meaning, depending on the lesson, I don't know, they finished the first lesson, which is to say, hi, my name is blah, 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 and encourage them to go home and introduce themselves to the parents in English, in a way that they show what they learned. Because if you tell them, oh, what did we learn today? They say, we learned verb to be, names, or whatever. They're not going to remember. But if we tell them the communication that they learned, or what they learned to do with a language, it's not about the item, the isolated item, but what they can do with a language, and we throw it back to the real life, then they can use it in a more meaningful way. So the going further is either a research note, so try to find out more about school objects, there'll be a lesson there that you didn't see in the class today, but you would like to know, research at home, but it's not a compulsory homework. Like, you're not saying, the homework is blah. That's why it's not on the homework box. It's for us to encourage, literally encourage, with all the passion we have for education, to literally encourage them to do something with a language at home, with their friends, in school. Ask your neighbor whatever, or tell your parents this or that in English. This makes learning a little bit more tangible for the children and for the parents. So when you ask me communication with parents indirectly, this is the going further box is part of the communication with parents. And to do so, it has to be done in a very exciting manner. I mean, we need all our excitement there, okay? Hopefully we can do that. Thanks. Could we have monthly webinars just for the teens and young learners? Very good suggestion, Priscilla. Noted. I don't know if we can, but we can try. And I have to say something about that as well. Not about the webinars, but about the young learners and teens. So noted. I didn't get if they have a workbook. Bruna is asking about the very, very important question, because we don't have the books, right? If they have a workbook or it's all done in the student's book. They do have a workbook, however, it's in the same book. It's not a pack, it's not called a pack. And when they go and buy the course book, they will see different pages for the workbook and progress checks and the student's book. And we're going to use both, okay, during the course. Let's see, Danilo, thank you. After the course, special needs. Yes, don't forget the courses on special needs. There will be discipline and motivation in the last week of July in Faculdade as well. Going further. Okay, I'm glad it makes sense. That's the idea. Yes, Bruna, that's the idea. That it makes it more fun for them to do, and that they enjoy English, right? That they come to class and it's not something heavy, on okay, you go home and do exercise 2. Bye. No. So in exercise 2, we're going to reflect what we did in class. So in exercise 2 here, you're going to be able to show everything you learned, whatever. I'm not sure what we can say that because I don't know what exercise 2 is. And also, what you can do today is you tell your parents this and that. And the hashtag, nobody mentioned the hashtag. We were going to drop the hashtag, and I'll explain why we decided to keep it, because there is a rationale for that. I visited some lessons, some teenager lessons this semester, and some teachers were doing it brilliantly, like a dream hashtag moment. And then I decided to keep it in a positive way there. And the idea is to link it to the going further or the fun element. I think I added box on Teenager 1, how to work with hashtags or how to write effective hashtags to help them with IT skills that they need. Because the hashtags are not supposed to be, verb to be, present, name, greetings, whatever, right? But something meaningful that could be a chunk, and encouraging them to produce something that is fun and memorable. That's the idea of a hashtag. And then it links to the going further, not just words or dropping vocabulary there. But if they could, what will be the one hashtag for that moment that they could add to the project, and we can keep all those, and towards the end, produce the end or the middle of the course, produce a word cloud with all the hashtags they used. Okay, does that make sense? Because then it's very visible. Oh, look at what we learned and what you summarized we learned. Yeah, I'm tripping here. So, going further on, okay, Karina's course, yes, Karina's course is amazing, don't miss it. We've noticed that the allocated time for homework correction is 3 to 5, it depends. Yeah, it depends. Christian is saying that the homework is for 3 to 5. No, not in that case it is. When it's very, very little homework they had, 3 to 5. When it's, for example, I was just organizing one of the lessons, it's like 8 to 10 minutes, because it's really a stage of the lesson, okay? So depending on how much homework or the suggestion for correction, that's how much they have. And yeah, that was very little homework, Christian. But in the case of the, oh my God, longer slots for homework, it's because you have 2-3 exercises and then you give them a line and everything. It does take something like 10 minutes to do it meaningfully and sitting them or helping them collaborate and everything. So it's a slot in the lesson, okay? Don't worry. The hashtags of the week, yeah, that's the Diego is asking about the hashtag of the week. We're keeping the hashtags, and it's a weekly hashtag again, okay? It's not it's not in every lesson. It's still a weekly hashtag. Guys, we have to wrap here. Okay, Christian, I'm glad you understand. Fantastic. Let me just say one last thing for us to wrap this. It's the first semester, it's going to be implemented, so nobody taught the new teenager course yet. Nobody tested it. And when it happens, we do depend a lot on feedback to make the necessary adjustments, okay? And I'm counting on all of you and your colleagues and peers as well to bring feedback, send us feedback. You can send me via email or even send Juan. We're going to try and add a QR code for you with a form. You can send us feedback. Those of you who know me, you know you can write anything, anytime, and I will take that into account, okay? We do count on you to collaborate. Okay. Let me just answer this last question in 30 seconds. More than words, only for those who have a Google account. So unfortunately, the T5, T6 don't have a Google account and they cannot join in, okay? Thank you, Julia. Thank you, guys. And I hope we have a wonderful semester, okay? Bye-bye.